Previously on Work to Game. And if you guys want more topics during the week, sound off in the comments below. So we've been kind of doing this Tuesday, Thursday, but we could bring more community feedback.
A peg off.
A peg flew off?
Yeah, it was supposed to go right here. Just gone now.
All right, peg missing.
We got a community feedback.
Yeah. And the wheel has chosen a community feedback, guys. Thanks for tuning into this video. If you guys like this kind of video, be sure to hit that top link in the description for Chris's channel, which we just introduced you guys to last week. Gaming kinda. Almost 700 subscribers. You guys are incredible and awesome. And we've got some fun stuff coming up for you guys over the next couple of weeks. But, Chris, who's our first comment? What are we talking about here?
So our first comment is from Michael Pate. This is we start with member guys. We did put a member only video, our first ever to do that. That's just a an AMA up here on the channel. So you guys that have hit that member button, we did just do one extra thing for the questions that you guys asked specifically. He says, I had about 800K when I got my first job to 80. Then I got up to about 2.5 million. Then leveling all my crafting to 60 and buying some glamour, I got down to 35K. Right now I'm at 12.7 million. As a reminder, guys, we're talking about the Gil. What is Gil good for post and your responses to that. I never thought about making old dungeon gear BOE. That's an interesting idea. Between roulettes and retainer missions, I'm regularly turning stuff into my grand company where I buy more ventures and those handy Aetheryte tickets. I do really wish they would make a glamour system more like the current transmog system. At one time I had a complete set of the latest PvP gear, but had to sacrifice most of it because I ran out of room, and I am still almost 400.
So honestly, when he said he went down to 35K, that like made me just go, oh wow. Like
that hurts.
When I go below 10 million, that's when I'm just like, all right, time to, it's time to actually like just start stocking away and actually go check my retainers and make sure I have things up there. But then also jumping up to where from 35K to 12 million, I think it shows that once you've especially invested enough in this, the game, and if you're taking advantage of like all the different bonuses that you can even achieve, even outside of like actively, like willfully trying to go make money, if I'm not like going to go just once I get to a certain point, I kind of go on these little shopping sprees. So I just feel like, if you have like housing, if there's these bigger milestones that kind of once you hit that all of a sudden money kind of just feels irrelevant. And, I know it feels bad saying that to somebody who's coming into the game. They're like, man, I feel like I just need Gil all the time. But a good point on the Aetheryte tickets. So guys, if you guys aren't aware, roll on everything in a dungeon. Everything. Because even if you don't, you can choose to break it down, which is cool because it gives you materials, or you can go trade it in your grand company, which will give you seals and allow you to purchase rare items, which you can sell, or you can buy these Aetheryte tickets, making teleportation free, which can end up saving you.
I don't think it's worth it to do that. I would sell the materials from breaking it down, or I would turn into like cordials or whatever. And sell them.
I'm just saying that you can, but it's like still like it's just a way of, especially if you got a lot of questing to do.
Oh yeah,
if you got a lot of questing, hey, pray return to the Waking Sands. I pray take this ticket, please. It's like,
well, especially if you're in Stormblood content where everything was like 1,000 gil, but like everything went back to being cheap again in the first. If they kept going up with it, where like everything was 2,000 gil now, 3,000 gil, those Aetheryte tickets become more and more valuable. But because that doesn't seem to be the long-term trend,
should they go up?
To weigh that. It would be interesting to see like how much is it or grand company things worth, and what is that ticket really costing you as opposed to other methods.
I wish that we could also sell those Aetheryte tickets like on the market board itself, right? Because then it's like that's just another market, in that regard. So what do you think?
I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah.
I think before then I would vote that we make dungeon loot from non-current expansions tradable.
Okay, cool. All right, well, thanks, Michael. It's just such an interesting piece.
Yeah, it's an interesting. We could probably talk longer about that, but we'll move on.
Yeah.
10. Gil at different times seems to be important, but as long as you can eventually repair and teleport, it's used for trading between players. I'm so glad I'm out of the Gil game, and I love seeing how others approach it. Former multiple house owner at several different times. What do you think, Brian?
I think the first thing that stood out to me from Sin's comment was, I wish we could repair other people's gear. Now, they made changes in dungeons, so it's less punishing, because there was a point in time where it's like, you forgot to repair, you go into a dungeon, you guys have a bad time, your gear breaks, and it's like, I could totally repair your gear for you. Like, the self-repair thing is such a nice little thing, but there was a time where we could repair each other's gear, and I wish we still had that ability. to do so, but we don't. And so when he said that, I was just like, gosh, like that's the only thing I really felt like the reason why I feel like I want to keep up with my crafting, and it's become so simple that hopefully more and more people take advantage of that. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the part of this comment that I most gravitated to was Gil seems important at the start. It's a lot like real life money, right? When you come across people who have a lot of it or have more than they need, their fears and their desires tend to shift to things that they don't have as much of, right? And so as soon as money's not on that list anymore, it can almost feel like they're dismissive of money, right? Well, it's not that hard. Like if something comes up, you just pay for it. It's like, well, it's easy for you to say because that's what you do.
Yeah.
But when you have people who have to make tougher decisions, right? If I get this, I can't have this. It's not so dismissively easy. And it's the same with Gil. When I take a break from the game or I take a break from a particular class and then new raid content comes out and I want to play on that class and that class therefore is not geared, I just go to the market board and I just buy all the fanciest crafting gear, and that usually catches them up enough to go into the content.
I think the exception,
how much money is that?
I think the exception here as well is not just the beginning, but also in that high-end raid tier, which you're buying potions and like you're just, there's an economy there, and there's a kind of economy at the beginning, and then I guess there's they have the achievable economy within getting a house and taking part in that system. But there does feel like there's definitely some gaps that could be filled in that could be interesting to the players. I know I personally would love to see more uses for Gil. I would love to see more reasons for me to go out and actually want to get it, but that's me just reiterating, I think, the point of the original video.
Oh man, it's like our next comment is where we're headed.
Whoa, curated comments.
Drauken Geis. Why is Gil not worth what it could be? Because just like every MMO, they create alternate currencies like tomestones that are the real currency for better gear or luck for mountain drops. The game creators make their own money somewhat pointless.
That's
kind of what you're saying.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Like that's where one of the things that I really enjoyed about New World, and I hope that they don't change it, because my fear is that, especially with an MMO that tries to do something different, that people might be worried about it, and then they end up saying, oh, we're just going to copy what everybody else has done because it's safe, and then everybody's like, well, why should I be here in the first place?
Right.
But in New World, it's like even if something wasn't tradable on the market, it's still tradable between players like that. And I don't think in every specific instance, but that's what I want. Like, okay, fine, you can't list it on the black market, but hey, by the way, like the real market, there's a black market in the game, right? And that becomes its own subterfuge. And Draconis, butchering it, they're right, like the other currencies, like so many currencies upon currencies upon currencies, and there's not a real translation, right? If you could turn, you can take tomes and stuff like that and turn them into money by buying certain items and selling and listing those items on the market, but that's going to vary based off of that. But you can't take currency and buy tomes. You can't take tomes and turn them into other tomes, and that honestly I think would be something really hard to balance from a game and a design perspective, but something I would love to see. I just looked today, and I'm at 2,000 Phantasmagoria, and I was like, huh.
What if you could buy with your 2,000, or make it like 1,850 or something, you could buy an item that was worth like 1,500 of them?
That'd be cool.
1,200, make that tradable.
Mm-hmm.
That way it's pulling them out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so just like when you trade money on the auction house, they're always taking their cut. That way we're not just transferring them endlessly, we're pulling them out of the cycle, and so it leaves the system a little bit hungry for all these, and then it functions more like a currency exchange does in the real world, where like that currency exchange, it's not free to go exchange your dollars for euros. They're going to make a little bit of piece off of the money, and then you're going to come out of it with this currency that you want. So you're not paying exact translation, you're having to pay a little fee at the door. Yeah, I mean, on one end of the scale you have like Diablo 2, right, where like gold really just didn't matter for 99% of play, and on the other end you have something like EVE Online, where like everything is tradable, and like when you die, that ship dies, and so you have to buy new ships, and so this player economy is a huge part of it. And you're saying New World seems like it's orienting on that far end, and Final Fantasy feels like it's almost moved more to this other way, where like there are a set of uses, but that set of uses is smaller when you compare it to all of the different currencies and things that you do want in the game that Gil just doesn't get you. Gil makes no closer. And in my mind, like housing almost belongs in that group, because the amount of Gil needed for a house is not what stops you from getting a house. What stops you from getting a house is there just aren't any.
Yeah.
So we'll keep moving. Lennox, The real problem is that veteran players like Work to Game have eliminated most of the kill sinks by leveling all of the crafting classes. It's also incredibly hard to only target veteran players with recurring gill sinks. I would raise this to the point where Brian has actually leveled all the classes. So like even worse. How dare you, sir? What are your thoughts?
No, I 100% agree. And it's interesting because I suck. I look at it though, it's like, I like the ability to do everything, and it's a strength of it. But then when you look at the game itself, I think the biggest thing is that being that we really don't have a player driven economy, that, you know, the end game stuff is dropped, not crafted, that crafters don't really play a role in that cycle. You have to come up with other, like, okay, well, here's the systems that they're taking part in, and it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. I don't blame the game though. Like, I look at the game from its historical context, and that's one of the things I do miss the most about 1.0. If 1.0 launched with a working auction, like the fact that they didn't have all these things, like it was just,
Right.
it didn't know what it wanted to be. It tried to be super casual, and then within that casual stuff, it had the most hardcore elements that even Final Fantasy XI had figured out and fixed. You know, like Final Fantasy XI had an auction house, and there was no such thing in 14, and they launched with that. That's stupid. Like, we can easily call that for what it is. However, the fact that like players made everything in the game, you know, that was cool, and you got drops and you got materials. Everything had a value, and that drove the need for each other to survive together. And so that's one of the things that I look at the existing game. It's like, why, like you can have trophies, but when you have trophies tied to progression, which is what the gear drops from Savages are, and Ultimates, those are trophies tied and that add progression. You then have that balance. Like, why does crafting even exist in the first place? And that's kind of where I wish that we would see that, because yeah, I've got everything leveled, but there's really, like, yeah, there's no more sink there. Like, I'm not funneling money into the economy. I'm not funneling money out of the economy. Right. And I don't know, man. There's no solution. Like, I say that and know completely well that the work that it would take to go and make, it would almost like, what? You would only end up just really infuriating the customer base, because they haven't experienced anything like that. It would be such a fundamental shift in game design to take this game to a player driven economy, that I couldn't even begin to express like how that's not going to happen.
Well, and the risk behind it is anytime you talk about economy, right? We look at the real world, and gaming economies are similar to a real world, except that people don't need to pay rent. So demand is a little funny, because demand is always a little more elastic, as opposed to like we have inelastic demands, things like healthcare, where no matter how much it costs, if you're dying, you're going to get in that ambulance.
Yeah.
And there are aspects of our economy, you know, you're going to eat food, you're going to pay rent. And they're required. So everything is elastic demand in games. People can just go without if the price gets too high. But also there's no regulation. There is no SEC. There is no, which is here in the US, that's the Security Exchange Commission. And they're the people who make non-capitalistic behavior illegal and against the rules in the market, and things like insider trading, things like monopolizing, antitrust, all that stuff that takes place as a way to protect people. There's none of that in this game. And so if you make it a player driven economy, just be aware that like then the trade-off becomes the people, if you make it easy for poor people to make money in games, that system, depending on how you design it, may very well just make the rich people even richer. And so
Yeah.
wealth gap is one of the issues in here, that there are people like those pesky work to gamers who just don't value money, that like that's not going to change that. Brian and I are still not going to value money,
right,
even if you make it easier for new players to make enough. In this next comment, Walt, thank you so much, says, Gil, what is it good for? Absolutely. And then the next comment below it was, I don't remember who, goes, nothing. And then there was a say it again. I really appreciate that you guys, I was like, I'm putting it out there. I'm hoping that's what people get. Thank you so much, Drew. Gil is something that you need for leveling crafters at a decent rate. This is from the perspective of a new player. So speaking of that new player, what do you think, Brian?
Absolutely. That's where like the game funnels you with some money. So it's a matter of like, what do you do and take that and use. And so from a leveling perspective, to kind of dive into Drew's kind of thing, it's like hit 50, you're going to have enough gil, invest that gil back into your player, right? So if you want to then work on your crafts and your, and things like that, then you could take the gil that you've made, you can invest in your crafts, reducing your overall cost. And you would then like, oh, you go to 60, the game's going to feed you plenty of gil. You can take that and invest it. And I wouldn't spread it out, because one of the things that like I think you found, and as efficient as it is to try to keep everything on par, like you should really level. It's just when you hit like goals and victories, like the first 50 levels of crafting feels like it's the hardest, right? So once you get to and have access to like, go through Heavensward, you can get access to the Firmament and take part in that. Like that's a really good leveling system. That's a really good thing to kind of help boost up your levels. But you should also take that guild that you have and be able to funnel it back in by playing the game. And it's almost interesting. It's kind of like, okay, get to this point. All right, take the money you earn from this, invest it into this, get to the crafts to this point and sit on them, and then work on the crafts so that you kind of stage them all into like this now level 50, because then from 50 to 60, 60 to 70, and 70 to 80, crafting speeds up exponentially. And you can find, and what you can do with the money that you make by playing, you can find when there's dips in the market to go and just buy up the materials and things that you need, and you can end up making a profit on your leveling experience, as long as you're not in a rush. And so when you're not in a rush, like you can just sit here and just like, it's all profit. And all of a sudden you were like, I got everything leveled, and I turned a profit on leveling, because I was able to turn it in for less than it would cost to make, or like cost to purchase straight off the market board. But you got to be able to be flexible with that. But it's all about staging. That's my thought.
Yeah. I mean, I think that sums up a good portion of how I feel. I think we'll read this last comment and then I'll respond. So JR says, the first 100K felt hard to make. After that, I've been making around 1 million a week, passively reselling a stock I got in bulk prices when they were low. It's pretty low effort, since I just fill my retainer slots when I log in and then play normally. The initial playthrough the story, I think it's like 300K for ARR.
For ARR, for before the extra patches.
Quests, so like I know it's gonna pay less, but like you also now have to play through Heavensward and Stormblood, so you're getting several 100,000 gil along the way, as long as you only spend it on the handful of teleports that are required, and you just take the gear as it gives it to you. You probably are fine. There's very little gil required to get through MSQ, if any, outside of teleports. I think that's really that key, is that initial nest egg, and then not spending it, right? Not immediately going, I'm going to go buy that pet. I'm going to go buy that glamour set. I'm going to go power level a crafter. Instead, take that money and don't view that as money to be spent. View that as money to be invested. So, go invest it in vendor flips, which I have a guild guide out on. Go invest it in materia flips, which I have a guild guide out on. Go and I'm not the only person that makes skill in this game. You don't want to watch mine, that's fine. The method is the same. Go watch it from somebody else. There's a lot of methods out there that are these, buy low, sell high. And sometimes that buy low, you're buying from a vendor. So it's available in infinite stock, and you're making money off of just saving somebody the trip. And do that at the beginning, because I think for early players, when you just want to level everything, there is a fixed amount of money, whatever that money is, 30 million, 50 million, 100 million. There's some number that would get you everything you're wanting. And if you just spend your initial stock trying to get to that, it won't make a dent. But if you spend that and you double it, and then you double it, and then you double it, you will get, and once you pay that down, you'll be in those pesky work to gamer spot where guild just isn't the thing that drives what you're wanting to achieve in the game anymore.
So on that same kind of note, and talk about kind of that buy low, sell high at times, right now this would be an excellent time to buy low, and then when the patch 5.4 drops, that's a great time to sell high. Being able to kind of stock up on different things, taking advantage of your retainers, putting them out, having them go farm resources for you. Like if you have a miner, having them go get the soil, or if you have a botanist, having them go get seeds, like having them and targeting them at things that people tend to want, especially from a soil perspective. That's one of the things I do. I just sit here and is like, yeah, go gather me some soil. And then when people are investing and they do need to do gardening and things like that, boom, guess what? I'm sitting out there and I'm a soil vendor, because I've just been passively letting myself accrue this stuff at rock bottom prices, and then you're able to sit here and supply the market. So just know the ebbs and flows of the game and its patch cycle, and you can actually take advantage of that. One of the things that ends up making like if you can I know Julie when like Heavensward came out, she didn't play Heavensward. She just crafted and made a crazy ton of money by doing that, and then eventually was like, okay, I guess I'll go play the story now. But she was just having fun, doing cooking and things like that. So it was just like, ideally, in her case, she took advantage of having fun and then going and do those things. But nothing.
She also had you bankrolling her at the beginning, so.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah,
a little bit.
Find one of those filthy
gave her the
WTG
ability
bankrolls that those veteran players. It's like, I got money that I'm not using. Here you go.
Yeah.
I've doled out like millions and millions of gil to different people in the community over the course of the game. So, it is what it is. Like, it's nice to kind of have a group of people that you like to play with. That's a fact. Chris, any other thoughts before we wrap up this video? Nice little, probably our shortest community feedback. Our last one was like 40 minutes.
Yeah. No, just a huge thank you to those of you that have hit subscribe. The last two were from people who have not yet felt we earned it. And then and I guess if possible, even bigger thanks to those of you that have hit that member button, because you guys make a lot of this stuff possible.
Go watch your special AMA video. We did it just for you guys. So
we did it just for you guys. Just thank you guys. You guys make it easier for us to make the amount of content that we can make, and maybe one day make even more content. So,
all right. For Work to Game, my name is Brian.
I'm spinning that wheel.
Oh, he's spinning the wheel.
Why can't I read that? Why do we play? So extrinsic value versus intrinsic value. What drives you to play? What feels like a reward? Is the gameplay itself the reward, or is it more about like loot and things like that? What is the reason that you want to log into games?
Let's find out, and we'll have that video out for you guys, and hopefully you guys enjoy. Thanks for watching. For Work to Game, my name's Brian.
My name's Chris.
Hopefully you have a fantastic day, and we'll see you soon.
Take care.
Bye. This video is sponsored by me, Ginger Prime. Hopefully you'll check out my podcast channel, Ginger Gaming Radio, which we have lots of guests, lots of great conversations, and even more highlights. Links are in the description below. Let me know what you think. Thanks.